All right. Welcome. Can you guys hear me? If you're watching this right now, let me know if you guys can hear me because I feel like I'm having some trouble with my sound. I feel like my sound is out. So if you can hear me, please put an XO in the chat. I see that maybe a couple of people are watching. If you guys can hear me, please put an X or O in the chat. Okay, awesome. Hey, Tammy. Awesome. I guess the sound is just crazy on my end. I could not hear the intro music. Welcome to the review for Heart and Hustle 3. Third episode of Heart and Hustle, titled Very Cutesy, Very Demure. These shows are filmed and come to light so quickly that they're able to keep up with all the little stuff that social media sayings and things like that. So very cutesy, very demure from that TikTok video. You still hear the music? Oh my gosh. Yeah, something is weird with, okay, all right, now we should be good. Something is strange. I can't hear anything on my end. So hopefully I can get that worked out by tonight when we do dating diaries. But anyway, welcome. We are talking about Heart and Hustle. Very cutesy, very demure. This was an interesting episode. Thank you so much, Tammy. I appreciate it. Tonight, actually, it was Saturday's episode. We actually got a chance to meet Chloe's man. We met Chloe's man. We got a chance to see Latorria talk to a man again. We saw Ro go to her first therapy session ever. We saw Munira actually let down that super cute, super self-righteous I'm always perfect mask. We see there's some other stuff going on. We already know that there's a lot happening with Elena. And we got to see Labrina's spa. Labrina, hey, I'm actually wearing my cowboy top in honor of the ladies from Heart and Hustle in Houston. Tammy said, Chloe stunted on the girls. If you guys are watching this in the replay, I definitely look forward to seeing what you guys think about all of this. But yeah, we'll start there. Tammy brought her young man to Labrina's house. They had like a pool party with the ladies, all the significant, the plus ones, all the ladies, men's were there. And except for Latorria, who was single, and also Ro, who was single. But everybody else had their boo thing there. And it's funny because this whole thing with Chloe saying that that Elena's husband Josh is not fine, it's going to probably be something that keeps going till the end of the season, because it has, that little comment and that little hiccup it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm going to get into that, but yeah. So you guys let me know. Tammy says she's stunning on him. You guys let me know if you think that Chloe, had a right to talk. I mean, she is 17 years older than this young man. So, I mean, you can't really compare him to other people's husbands that are more age appropriate because he is 17 years younger than her. She was actually in high school about to graduate when he was born. Like that's serious. Like if you were damn near an adult before your significant other was born, either way, men or women, that's just kind of crazy. So I'm gonna have to ask her to, you can gotta get a couple of points deducted because it ain't that what is he gonna look like when he gets to that age? When he's in his 40s, almost 50, what is he gonna look like? Like you can't just use age as a indicator of him being better than their husbands. Like he's younger. That's not gonna work. But I mean, he's an attractive guy. I do think that I think Tammy says the gap is too wide, but if it works for you, yeah. But I'm just saying when you're comparing, like you can't compare. This man is just starting he's just starting his life. He is just starting his life. He has not had the failures, the disappointments, the setbacks, the weathering that the rest of us have had. That's a fresh, like how when you go outside after it snowed and no one has stepped on the snow yet, that cars haven't ridden over it, leaves aren't in it. It's just fresh, it's just hit the ground. That's how we start out. All of us start out that way. And then time and disappointment and hurt and experience, it marks you up a little bit. It gives you a little bit of a man belly, a dad bod, if you will. But good for her with the young boy that's her son's age. I'm not mad at it, but I'm just saying you can't just try to stun on the ladies with a whole boyfriend that is young enough to be your son. Like I'm gonna take a few points off, ma'am. But anyway, she brought him to the barbecue. I want to say this about Chloe. Like Chloe is one of them type of people that either you're going to like her or you don't. She is very in your face. I do think that because of what she has experienced, I cannot imagine, coming home or being home and hearing that your husband just had a massive heart attack and died. Sudden death out of the blue. He was not even 50 yet, I don't think. That is got to be something very traumatic. And I do think that she's still experiencing grief. But you can't, so it's kind of like we can't really call her to the table on some of her stuff because I think a lot of it is her acting out, right? Because I know she's hurt. That's not something that you probably ever can just get over. Like this was the love of your life. You guys were together 7 years. You had 2 children together. You're building a life. And then all of a sudden that life is over as you know it because he's gone. He's just, and that's so final. So my heart goes out to her. And I think that some of her batitude, someone used to say that gave me that little, that word as a way of explaining a woman's bad attitude. Some of her batitude is because she's grieving and she's hurt and she's just trying, right? She's just trying to still show up. She's trying to still be a friend. She's trying to still have her sanity. And I'm sure that has to be hard. Even years later, it has to be hard. So we definitely want to extend her some grace as we do these reviews on the show. But I also want to acknowledge that she fly at the mouth. She fly at the mouth. And, sometimes other people are going through stuff as well. So you can't always expect somebody to give you grace, even if they're going through something. So just putting that out there. Elena, we're going to talk about the easy stuff first, and then we're going to get into the other stuff. Elena and her husband were there. I would say Latorria, and you guys know I like Latorria. I've worked with her before, but Latorria really, to me, was out of place by asking Elena and her husband if they would want to do a vow renewal. We know that their marriage is in a difficult place right now, and she's been very candid about it. Honest, I don't think pushing her and almost embarrassing her was was a good step. So I kind of, Latorria kind of showed herself to be a little messy. We saw some signs of it last week, but this week, in particular, I thought was really inappropriate. I don't know if production, asked her to do that, but if production did, they were being messy because that was totally not cool. Um, and Elena is not even able to, she's in such a tender place. She's not even able to fake it. You know what I mean? She can't even act like she's okay. You could just see her emotions are on her sleeve when it comes to her marriage. And I get it. I mean, that's they've been together for 14 years. There's a lot of love there, but then there's also a lot of pain there. And then he said that he would not want to do a vow renewal until like 20, and they're not even at 15 yet. And so I do agree with what Chloe said, because Chloe said, hey, you don't, 20 is not guaranteed, not just because you may get a divorce, hopefully not, but you don't know if you're going to, what if you're not here tomorrow? Like, she just lost the love of her life. And I think for me, that's a big reason why I'm real big on, like, if you have a relationship with someone that you love, allowing people to go to bed mad and just to be, you just never know what is going to happen. And God forbid something happen to somebody that you're going through a beef with, a friend, a sick spouse, a significant other, or significant other, your child. Like, mend that stuff, man. Don't do that, because you do not want to be on the other end of something unfortunate happening to someone that you love, and you did not do your best to fix it before, and didn't have a chance to tell them that you love them. Your last conversation was distant, or you didn't have one. I just think that's a horrible place to be. I wouldn't want to be there. Obviously, there are a lot of people that don't care about that, but me personally, I would not want to be there. So I understand why Chloe spoke up and said, hey, you should do it. If you guys, don't wait for 6 more years. Y'all in a bad place right now. We don't know if you're going to make it. Like, put the work in and do it now. And I hate that Elena, I don't think I would have brought that up in front of the group, but I could tell she couldn't wait because she was emotional. And sometimes when you're emotional, you can't wait for a better moment. It just got to come up and out. It got to come up and come out. It's just got to, and so I think that's what happened. She was like, no, I want to go back to the conversation, because she was hurt by his response. Right. And so she wanted to dive deeper into it. And he was not really, he was listening, but I don't think he was really tuned in or open to even really having that conversation in front of the rest of the group. So that was hard to watch. And I really hope that at the end of this season, we're able to see a breakthrough with Elena and Josh. You guys know I love love. I believe in marriage and all that stuff. I really, really don't want to see anybody, go through that. But I also think that that's real. People have been together for 14 years. And that, I was talking to a friend earlier, like, the only thing that makes your marriage successful is if you don't leave during the hard times, right? So their marriage it's not like it's bad that they've done anything different than other couples. They're sharing it on national TV, but most people go through really hard times. If you make it to any high number, that's admirable. And to me, until people have been married like 10 years, I'm like, you don't really know what it takes to stick and stay, because most people don't, So if you ain't been married 10 years, then for me, it's not really, we don't know yet. We don't know. But for people that have been married 10, 15, 20, 25 years, then that they do know how to stay. They have the ability to understand unconditional love with another person. All of us have the ability to do that with our children, right? And even our parents. We don't have, you can't just get rid of your parent. You get mad. Well, some people do. But for the most part, your parents are not perfect and you accept them. Your children are not perfect and you accept them. But when it comes to a significant other, it's very easy to just be like, I don't need this, I'm out of here. And so I really hope that the two of them, 14 years is admirable. They have children. I hope they're able to fix it. And the fact that they were in business together. I mean, Me personally, I always think being in business with your significant other is a huge risk because sometimes you need that space, right? Like, because what if the if the business fails, does the relationship fail? The relationship fails, the business fails, and sometimes if you are going through a painful breakup, the business is what saves you. But if you are in a, and I know that's kind of contradictory because I don't believe that you should ever let it go, but I'm just saying if you go through a divorce and you don't have a business because you guys business was together, that has got to be the worst. So now I've lost my business, I've lost my man, I'm just starting at scratch. So I always kind of think couples that do all of that together are extremely brave, right? um because even when you break up with somebody, you guys have friends. Some friends go one way, some friends go the other. Business clients, like that is crazy. But I mean, if you're married for the right reasons and you're trying to really make it work, then you wouldn't, you would definitely not think of it that way. But I'm talking about these people that are just get in and get out. Don't be working with people because you may end up doing something else. But these people had a really, blossoming business that was very successful. So I hope that we see them work it out. Right now it's kind of uncomfortable seeing them go through this in front of the group. But I also think it's brave of them because the reality is if you're going to be married 14 years, trust me, y'all have been through some stuff, and that's just how life is. You don't get, if you've had a friendship for that long, y'all have been through some stuff, that's just life. So I hope that we see them get back together or at least start to mend. Nothing just becomes perfect again, but I hope that we see them have a breakthrough because I don't like seeing them on the verge of throwing away something that was so beautiful. I also don't like the fact that Chloe doesn't seem to value marriage, towards her friends. Again, we're going to give her grace because she lost her husband, but it feels a little hypocritical and it feels like she has a lot of negative things to say about marriage because she's not, she lost the love of her life. If you guys are just tuning in, it is Crystal XO in the middle of the day. I'm talking heart and hustle. I was not able to do this on Sunday. And so I am doing it today. I had work to do on Sunday. And so I thought, let me jump in with my family in the middle of the day, the XO family in the middle of the day, and do this heart and hustle because this one titled Very Cutesy, Very Demure is one I really, really feel strongly about. There's a lot of things happening in this episode that I, feel very close to my heart. So I just wanted to make sure I gave it the time it needed and didn't rush through it. So that's what we're talking about. But we're going to pivot from Elena and Josh because we didn't see much of that this episode. But we did see that initially really uncomfortable confrontation at Labrina's pool party with her and her husband when Latorria asks her, would you guys do a vow renewal? And he does not seem to think that that's something that they need to do right away. So we'll get back to them next week. I want to move on to let's move on to Latorria because Latorria was to me the focal point of this episode. I also think because of the title, Very Cutesy, Very Demure, it reminds me of, just the life as a publicist. Our lives are also always supposed to be very cutesy, very demure as far as how we handle ourselves in public. But one of the things that I did not like was when they show the scene when Latorria was at dinner, and we didn't see this in the episode, but they did a flashback. Latorria was at dinner, and Ro and some of the other ladies, they were talking about sex. Now, Ro and Chloe are very in your face. That's just a personality thing, right? They're very much in your face. They're very much like, they may be a little sometimes what some people think is inappropriate. And so they were having a conversation about sex, and Latorria said, first of all, I'm talking to people. It's very clear that these girls are not all good friends. This is not an authentic friend group. These are people that there may have been two here or there that were friends, but they've been put together for this show, right? So I'm put together with these girls I don't really know like that. And then we're out in a public place, and then there are cameras in my face. So I understand Latorria not necessarily wanting to talk about her sex life. specifically because she's not having but even if she was, like, that's not something that every woman is okay with. And so she was like, she's not having sex. And Ro said something like, there's cobwebs on that. And then, she says that she does not talk about sex in places like in a public like this. And then Rose, kind of clowns her. And then Latorria says, I'm a woman of God, right? And to that response, Ro gets very upset and says that Latorria she doesn't feel comfortable talking around her. She feels like she's fake. She keeps a mask up. And I'm just like, you know what? All she said was, I don't talk about this, and I am a woman of God. And she said it kind of in a playful manner. Well, I feel like in that situation, Ro was 100% wrong. What we see in this show is a lot of the women project their own issues onto each other. That happens in life all the time, which is why I think it's great that we see examples of it. So we can talk about, okay, this is what that was. Because this is the problem. When Ro was talking to her therapist and she's saying how she's just a person because of how she was raised, she's very raw, she's very just unfiltered. And she feels like when other people don't respond the way she is, that she can't be herself around them. Well, that has nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with you. And so Latorria said that to her at the barbecue. She was like, well, that you should be yourself. You should show up as yourself all the time. Right. And she's like, well, no. And she took the fact that she said a woman of God, and that really seemed to throw her off. And I just, I want to say, for me, I was watching and I was like, man, I can relate to that so much because, first of all, I am just always a person that's a lot more conservative. That's just my personality. I was a charm and etiquette instructor, for God's sake. Like, and now at 24, like, you know what I mean? So at 24, I was teaching girls how to use their spoons and how to sit properly and all. That's just me. That's not me being fake. That's just who I am. And a lot of times other women that are less reserved, they will accuse me of being fake. And I'm like, I'm not being fake. I'm just not exactly like you. And just because I don't talk like you doesn't mean that I'm being fake. I could be in here with nobody but myself, and I will still act like that. That is an issue all the time, specifically with Black girlfriends or even men. There are a lot of guys that are like, you don't ever let your hair down. My hair is down. This is just me. And just like you feel uncomfortable when someone tries to make you be more reserved, I feel uncomfortable when someone tries to make me be more outside of my personality. Like, we have to realize that all of us are different. And just because I don't want to talk about busting it wide open doesn't mean that I'm being fake. It just means, girl, that is not who I am. Even when I was single, before I got married, I talked about this before, I decided to be celibate. There were a lot of women that I was around that were like, oh, girl, that's okay, but that's fine. That's fine that you don't agree. That's not what I want to do. And I feel like specifically in African American culture, a lot of times if you're not over the top and cursing and expressing yourself and being, then it's like you're being fake. And it's like, I'm not being fake. If I was cursing and twerking, and that would be fake for me, because that's just not who I am. But just because I'm who I am doesn't mean that you shouldn't be who you are. And I don't judge people. I may not do what you do, but that doesn't mean I'm judging you. So for instance, I don't drink. So I'll have a sip of something occasionally, but for the most part, I don't drink. So I would go someplace with someone and they'll be like, I'm not judging you. Drink if you want to drink. I just don't want to. Like, why are you upset because I don't want to do that? I didn't even curse until I went through something really horrible. And then I introduced myself to a whole new person, but I don't really like that. You know what I mean? That's not, if I'm in my comfort zone, I'm not cursing a lot. I'm not drinking. That's just me. And it's not fake. It's just me being authentic. And I just think that there has to be said, just like some people feel comfortable being over the top, being loud, and to me, where I may feel like it's inappropriate, right? They don't like when a person tells them to calm down or be quiet or we feel the same way. Those of us that are more reserved feel the same way. Leave me alone. Do you? I hate that. And so her whole conversation, I did not think that her therapist was right, because her therapist said, well, you are, you being who you are makes people that are not authentic uncomfortable. I mean, that's not what happened. What happened was Latorria just didn't want to talk about that. And that's not her being uncomfortable. I'm comfortable with you saying whatever you want. I just don't want to talk about it. And I have that right, because this is my mouth and this is my life. And I just think that a lot of times women that are, different don't get that. And they feel like if you're acting like this, you're being fake. And I just, this was a wonderful opportunity for me to address that, because I've been accused of that a lot. So what I've learned to do as I've gotten older is I just stay away from people like that, because if what I don't do convict you, that's on you. That is on you. Even guys that I've dated, like, if you want a girl that's loud and turns up and twerks, those are fine ones, but don't get mad at me and tell me to let my hair down. I don't do that. That's just not who I am. I would like to sit here and be, reserved. That's who people say, well, you don't have fun. I have my type of fun. My type of fun is going to ride my horse, or, I like to hang out with my girlfriends, do some fun, fancy stuff, but I don't want to be, at a crowded club twerking on the table. Now, I do have friends that do, and I'm cool with that. But if I stand there and smile at you and maybe take your picture or do whatever, it's cool. But don't get mad at me because I don't want to get up there. That's just, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Do you, boo? And let me do me. So I feel like with Ro, I feel like she doesn't understand. For those of you that don't know, this is Paisley. Paisley wants to be a part of the conversation. Paisley is the girl. This is Paisley. And I feel like Paisley is the girl that wants to twerk on the table. She wants to twerk on the table, right, Paisley? You want to do it. You're loud. You're inappropriate. Now, Sugar Pie is more like her mama. Sugar Pie is like me. She's more like her mother. See how Paisley is moving around? She's not even able to be, she has no decorum even up here. She's just all over. Now, if Sugar Pie is up here, she just sits and she's chill. I don't want to do that, Paisley. But see, everybody is different, and you have to be okay with who you are. And just because you like to be loud and you like to talk about knocking the dust off, knock it off. I would love to talk about that with you, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to. And just, thank you, Jada Baker. And I get it, because I'm usually not on during this time. That is my dog's daughter, Paisley, who is more like Ro. And Paisley is more like Ro and Chloe. And Sugar Pie and I are more like Latorria. We're more reserved, and we don't want to do all that. And I just think that just because someone is more reserved doesn't mean that they're judging you. It doesn't mean that they're being fake. I don't like that. You know what I mean? And I think in our culture that happens a lot. And so I just wanted to address that. That is the one situation with Latorria. Now, there's another situation with Latorria and Munira. So Munira, I knew that still waters ran deep. Munira seems like somebody, because she is a social media influencer and she's a overachiever, because she was an electrical engineer and now she does content creation, and she's very big on appearing a certain way, right? So I don't think that Latorria was wrong in the situation with Ro, and I also don't think that Latorria was wrong in the situation with Munira. If you guys didn't see, or if you did see, I'm speaking about when they went to the spa, and Latorria says to Munira, she's like, "You look like you're 11." Now, they're at a spa, right? The very idea of going to a spa means that you're trying to make yourself, you're trying to reverse the signs of aging. All of us are as women, right? So I perfectly understand why Latoria's telling Munira she looked 11 in her mind was a compliment, because at this in your 30s and 40s, if someone is telling you that you in your 30s and they're in their 30s that you look really young, that's a compliment. You obviously you got a man, you got 4 kids or 3 or 4 kids, you've been an electrical engineer, you make a lot of money. Girl, what? Okay, you look, if you look young, you're winning, right? And she also she made a comment about her drinking apple juice because Munira doesn't drink, right? But I think she meant it like she was having a kid's meal or something. Well, Munira got big mad and she said that Latorria was always bothering her about looking young. And she knows that she looks young. You guys remember when I interviewed her, I interviewed Elena and Munira in the beginning, right? And I said to her, well, you know, I'm sure working in a male dominated industry like electrical engineering, looking like you do. And I just meant being a beautiful woman. And she automatically was like, yes, you know, looking like this, you know, it definitely was hard for me because of that. So she obviously knows and takes pride in the fact that she feels like she's a beautiful woman who looks young. But I feel like maybe because she got teased about that, I do know I could probably relate more with, when I was younger, I did get that I looked like a little kid, right? But my body never did. I just had big cheeks. And so I remember being in college and people say, you look like a little girl. Well, I don't like it when it comes from, you know, a man, and that did happen a few times. But if another woman said that, I don't think I would have been upset. That was a sore spot, and she went off on Latorria because of it. And I don't think, see, this is what I want to like. We all come from different backgrounds. Latorria probably is thinking, man, I wish I looked younger. Latorria, it's not that she looks old. I'm just saying she doesn't look super young like Munira, and Munira is really small. So Latorria, she actually mentioned being a bigger person. People will look at her and think that she was a bully, even being darker skinned. I mean, this episode really just talked with some of the insecurities and stereotypes that we have in our community as Black women. If you are darker skinned, if you are bigger, a lot of times people make certain assumptions about you. Munira being biracial and small, I'm sure people made certain assumptions about her. But you got to understand when someone is saying something that is trying to be hateful, or if they're actually saying something from their perspective, that would be the case of something amazing. I'm going to be very transparent with this conversation because I can relate to the entire thing. So Chili is one of my best friends. And you know, if you guys watch this channel, you know that. I don't talk a lot about it because she's one of my friends. I have quite a few friends. She is one of my best friends. But when she and I first got really close, Chili has always been very small, very small. Obviously, you guys know that, like barely 5 feet. And tiny, right? So we would go out and you know, we met because I was her publicist, started in 2004. So we would go out to events, and I'm more voluptuous and I'm 5'2", almost 5'3", but compared to her, I look like a giant. You guys, I have pictures of us together. And I will put one up just because I want to prove to you that I want you guys to see that I feel Munira and Latoria's pain. Let me get a picture of us. I'm telling you, there are pictures of us where I feel like a member of Jurassic Park. Like I feel like a big, huge person compared to her. She's tiny and small. And I used to hate taking pictures with her because, and she didn't know this because I didn't tell her this, right? But I would be like, oh my God, I look like a huge, I gotta find a good one because this is gonna make you guys laugh. But it'll show you that I really do understand. I understand the problem, right? Let me see. Let me go to one of my old albums. I used to hate it because I look like a monster. To me, I look huge compared to her. Now, y'all may not agree, but you'll understand what I'm saying. Like, it's just, you know, when you have a friend that is super little, um, then you kind of are like, I feel like I look a lot older. I feel like I look a lot bigger. And she would say things to me like, it's a couple of, and some of these, now I'm looking at them, but some of it I felt weird because that's my insecurity, right? My insecurity is I felt like I looked huge compared to her. And and she felt like, I remember she would tell me that when she was younger, she always, you know, when she was in high school, she didn't have, like, she wasn't all bootylicious. And I did not like being bootylicious at all. At all. I hated it. I hated it. I hated being voluptuous. I hated being, um, you know, and for her, I guess I don't look, now that I'm looking on this, I don't look super tall compared to her, but I felt like it. I felt like I was towering over her. I'm pulling these. There's two. There's a bunch, but I'm gonna pull these two so you guys can see it. But I would feel like I was this this dinosaur towering over her, huge, just huge compared to her, and not um at all. I mean, and then she also looks super young, right? So I, you know, I'm actually younger than her, but she looks a lot, I mean, she looks a lot younger than me. I look a lot older than her, you know what I mean? Because I just don't look like I'm 10 anymore. And she does. But that's not a bad thing. And so if I would say to her another thing, I would say, she'll say, well, if I stop eating, if I stop working out, I'll actually lose weight. And I would be like, girl, I don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? Because I cannot lose weight ever. You know what I mean? Like, everybody is different. And so sometimes hearing your friends say, oh, well, if I stopped working out, I have to work out because otherwise I'll get too skinny. I said, ain't nobody feeling bad for you about that. What are you talking about? And she would be like, well, I don't have, you know, when I was coming up, the boys wanted all that body that you had, and I don't have that. I got a little body, but it's not like that. So I understand. Here's one of us together. That is a long time ago. And see, to me, I look huge. I hate looking at pictures of us together. I didn't have any makeup on. I'm just natural hair. I don't think neither one of us had makeup on, but I feel like I look huge compared to her. And now I'm looking at the picture. It doesn't look as, not like I felt. Like I felt like I was towering over her, like in Monsters Inc. Then here's another one. Here's another one. So I guess our height don't look that different, huh? I'm a little bit taller, but yeah, I felt huge compared to her. She's little like Munira, right? And I'm more like Latorria, and I would feel like, oh my God, I look like the big person over her. And she actually would tease me. And like I said, I don't really talk about this, but this show makes me talk about it. She would tease me about being voluptuous and having, you know, a big butt. And she calls me junk in the trunk. And I get so embarrassed. Like, I had to tell her one time, like, that bothers me because that's a sore spot, but she didn't mean it in a bad way. And if I said, I appreciate that time, but I'm just showing you guys sometimes how a person receives it is based on how they feel. So for her calling me junk in the trunk in front of people, we'll be out in an event with people and she'll be like, look at junk in the trunk, look at Crystal's butt. And I'll be like, oh my God, it made me feel uncomfortable, right? And then if I say to her, you look skinny, she would get upset because she's trying to gain weight. I'm trying to lose weight. But everything is based on how that person feels. But I understand that her calling me junk is not her trying to hurt my feelings. So I'm saying all that to explain that I really do understand the situation with Munira and Latorria, right? Because Latorria is looking like, man, I wish I was little like that? Probably. I don't know. But I'm saying for me, when I call her little and she doesn't like it, she does not like being called little at all. So if you ever meet her in person, don't do that, because people always are like, oh, you're so little. And she just gets offended. But it is based on how that person sees and manages themselves, right? So I don't think that Latorria meant that in a negative way at all. I think that Manira is extremely sensitive and is, not used to, someone saying something that's in a friend group that she doesn't like. She seems very sensitive, and Latorria probably as well. But Latorria explaining that when she was in school, whenever something would happen, she would always be looked at as the bully because of her size and her skin tone. I understand that, right? That is real in our culture. That is definitely something that people are judged on. And so when I was watching that episode, I was just like, wow, that is crazy how, depending on where you are in the situation, I am telling y'all, I have so many pictures, and I literally, it's funny because for the first time I'm looking at them and I'm like, Crystal, you do not look that big. But if you told me that before, I felt like a huge monster. Comparatively, because she's such a small person. And when you have a way that you see yourself and then the other person sees themselves, you're deflecting all that stuff that you have inside on yourself onto them. And I don't think that Latorria even could have imagined that would have hurt Manira's feelings by her saying she looks 11. Again, most women at a certain age, we want to look young. We all want to look young, right? We don't want to look older. You don't want to look bigger. And Jay the Baker says you're blessed to be a curvy woman. I hated being curvy. I hated being curvy. I would give. So I ain't gonna tell y'all my weight. I won't tell y'all hers either, because that's not fair. I wouldn't do that. But she weighs very little. I weigh a lot. I would give anything, to be that small. That's another picture of us. And I, again, just feel like I am towering. That's and another one of her friends, and my friends too, Tracy. But they just, I felt like Latorria, and I know she has felt like Manira. And I think that, as women, we have to understand whatever issue most of us want or would like to be on another side, right? So if you have naturally curly hair, you want to have something else. If like me, I've always been curvy, and she says, man, girls pay to have a butt like your natural butt. Well, I would give them this butt because I don't like it. I've told you guys I wear things around my waist so that I could kind of disguise it. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable because I've always had it. Somebody else is upset because they don't have a butt. Like, that's just part of being a woman. But you have to understand. I think you have to get to a place of maturity where you understand that if that person says something to me based on what they feel, it may not be them trying to hurt my feelings. I still don't like being called junk in the trunk. That little person will still do it. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'll tease her and be like, come on, little mama, like, what is going, but but I also understand that, at this point, if she's calling me junk, she's not saying it from a bad place. She's saying it like, man, that's cool. She was like, you have a perfect butt. That's a good thing. But I'm looking at her like, man, I wish I was like your size. You're super tidy and cute. I don't want to be big and curvy. So everybody has to look at it from that perspective. Manira should understand that being young, saying I'm upset because you're saying I look young and we're at a spa. Gotta understand. You gotta get a little maturity to understand it wasn't meant from a bad place. But it's hard to not feel that way if you're super sensitive and you haven't kind of gotten over it and understood where it comes from. So I definitely feel like in both of those cases, with how you look and how you act, as women, we just judge each other and we judge ourselves so harshly. Really, it's that we're judging ourselves. In both these situations, I feel like the main issue is the women judging themselves. I think Munira has an issue with herself being so small, right? And maybe she feels like people don't take her seriously. I know she thinks she's very pretty, but she just feels like people don't take her seriously. And I think that Ro has an issue with thinking that people are judging her. And I think both of them are probably wrong. Like, people are not thinking the things that we're walking around in our head thinking that they're thinking. I was thinking that I was going to show you. I was literally excited to show you guys these pictures, thinking that you were going to look at them and say, wow, Crystal, you look like a huge person, a huge Jurassic person standing next to Chili. And now that I'm older, you know, that does not look like that. That was just me being super insecure. You know what I mean? I literally, it's not as bad as I thought it was. I looked at this picture and all I could see was my huge arms, the fat right here, the fact that I was just towering up. Like, you know, we are so hard on ourselves. We do all have insecurities, but I think a lot of times we walk around with those insecurities on our sleeves, and then we hold that against someone else if they say something. But you got to look at where it's coming from. Munira hearing Latorria say that she looks young and she's little, Latorria probably wants to hear that for herself. You know what I mean? And not say that she's not proud of who she is, because I'm definitely proud of who I am, but we just all have things about ourselves that we think are flaws. And a lot of times how we digest something that someone says to us really has more to do with how we feel about ourselves and them. All right, I'm gonna get off the soapbox. You guys are watching in the replay. You let me know if you thought I looked like a Jurassic person next to Miss Chili, but you know, I'm better. But I still, like, when we go out someplace, I'll be like, I'm good on taking a picture with you because I look huge. And then I also had these two friends, Trish and Monica. Trish and Monica were both real models. Monica was in the Ebony Fashion Fair show years ago. And Trish, like, was a runway model, right? So I would take a picture with them, and I'm 5'2", and then I would look like their little chubby baby in the middle. And I was like, I'm not doing this with y'all no more. You glamazons, go on someplace else, because they were both like they're huge, tall women, tall, beautiful women. So everybody has their, and Monica would pat me on top of the head, you know, and I'm looking up at her like, girl, everybody, but she didn't mean it in a bad way. Everybody has different issues, right? Let's move on. Now, thank you, D Brown. That's so sweet. But I'm telling y'all, I was even worried about showing y'all those pictures. Because we just have an idea of what we think in our head. And when especially, you gotta realize, like, not only this is, I don't consider our friendship any different than any of my other friends, right? She's just one of my best friends, but I have 2 or 3 other ones as well. But I will be honest, when you're with a best friend that is considered one of the most beautiful women in the world at one point, you could be really insecure. I think I told you guys I was sitting at a table one time with Chili and Taraji and Kelly Rowland, and I was just like, I don't want to be at this table. Like, they're all drop dead gorgeous, you know what I mean? But and I thought, in my head, I'm thinking everybody that walks by this table is going to be like, why is she at this table? Like, we see Chili, Kelly Rowland, and Taraji P. Henson. One of these things does not belong here. But the reality is, people probably walking by probably knew I worked for one of them and didn't think it was a big deal. But I was sitting there like, oh my God, I've got to get up. This is so awkward. This is horrible. I am bringing down the average of this table. But it was all in my head. You know what I mean? So I think Munira's situation was in her head. I feel like Rose's situation was in her head, right? I definitely think that. Moving on to the situation at the spa. I did not necessarily agree with Labrina, and I like Labrina. She actually reminds me of one of my other best friends that some of you guys know. If you guys watched Ready to Love, then you're familiar with Shay. Shay is very, very beautiful. She reminds me a lot of Labrina as far as how they look. But Labrina has this beautiful spa. I definitely got to come visit that if I go to Houston anytime soon, or go to Texas rather. But she does not invite Elena or Chloe because she says she does not want drama. I don't know. I think that, but then leaving them out, I think that made them feel bad. You know what I mean? So I think that could have been handled differently. I think maybe, obviously these people want to go out. Hey, you're not going out till I finish. We're not done yet. I'm still got more things to share with the people. Hey, stop. So I think, yes, season 1 from Ready to Love, Shay from season 1. But I think that she could have, what I would have liked to see her do is, hey, stop, invite them maybe to talk things through themselves, so that they didn't feel like they were left out, because that just brings kind of more division. Stop. It brings more division to the show, I think. So I knew that was going to be a problem. And sure enough, Chloe was upset. I'm sure Elena probably, not, they've been trying to get out for a while. But see, that's the thing. They always want to be in here. No, no, you want to be in here. You wanted to be in here, so now you're in here. We still have more to do. Come here, Sugar Pie. I said Sugar Pie. We still have more show to talk about. So I think Elena's feelings will be hurt. I think Chloe's feelings were hurt. And I don't think that was the best way to handle that. I also do not think, you guys know, stop, Paisley. I am not a fan of shooting your shot at guys, right? Especially guys that you know. So I'm gonna just say, I don't think it was a good idea for Latorria to call that guy. I feel like if that guy wanted to go out and have drinks with Latorria, I think he would have already had asked her. I think that if he was interested in her outside of work, I think he would have already had reached out to her about that. I don't think men are unable to say if they're attracted to somebody. I also think with her being a publicist, which I have been for most of my life, asking a news source out on a date could be very, very, she just not gonna, you know what, I'm gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna put this picture up. Who are we talking about now? We're talking about Latorria. All right, give me 1 second, guys. All right. I do not think that a publicist inviting a media resource out, asking him out on a date, is a good idea. I'll tell you why. Because number one, media people that's a big part of our bread and butter. Your media relationships are a big part of your bread and butter as a publicist, right? So those relationships, you have to kind of guard with your heart, because if you are trying to promote something for a client, having people that you have great relationships with, that you know will, look out for you if it could be something that's newsworthy. I don't believe in asking my media friends or media, relationships to come out if something is not newsworthy, but something could be newsworthy, and then something else comes up that's equally newsworthy, and you want them to use the relationship to be used as kind of leverage to, them prioritizing what they're going to cover. So I think there's not a more important relationship for a publicist than your media connections, right? Besides the ones with your talent, but your clients. But one of the things that I live by is clients come and go, but those media relationships are the things that keep you valuable and relevant, in this business. So potentially destroying one of those for a date is not a good idea, I don't think. And I just think that if he was really interested, he would have already asked her out. And I think she put him kind of on the spot, because you're on a show, there's cameras, you call me on speakerphone. If he thinks that she's a nice person, he's not going to say no. But if he follows up with her and actually goes out with her, if he's not interested, then that's going to be uncomfortable later. You know what I mean? At least for me, I don't need you to put me in the friend zone after I've tried to talk to you. That feels weird. So I wish that she would not have done that. I'm not a big believer in mixing business with pleasure, because I think, especially unless the guy has already reached out to you, but something like that could definitely backfire. And I feel like Labrina doesn't know that. That's not her world. She's in a whole different situation. So I don't think she was trying to put Latorria in a bad predicament. I think she just wants her friend to have love. And I think she, wants her to find somebody. And I think that guy was the only thing they've seen her talk to recently. So it's just like, hey, talk to him. You guys notice that, like, single friends will always be like, well, what about this person, that person? They did, whoever shows up, they don't care what that person looks like. They're going to say, well, what about him? What about him? What about him? They're not going to be picky with it because they just want you to be with somebody. But I don't think that was a good idea. I don't think that he's interested because, like I said, I'm a big believer if a guy is interested, he would already have let you know. He would have flirted with you. He would have asked you out. You don't have to, a guy that you've known that long, you would not have to do that with if there was real interest. And I just don't think it's a good idea to get in the habit of asking out guys that you work with and that you're friends with, because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to reject you because they don't want to mess up the relationship, because publicists also give media a lot of perks too. So it wouldn't benefit him to mess up the relationship, but if he doesn't like her, that could make him feel really uncomfortable. So I just didn't think that was a good idea. I did not like it. I did not like it at all. I think that Latorria, my advice to her would be to look for someone outside of the industry, but someone that is accomplished so that they would not be intimidated by what you do. Because I do know, being a publicist myself, a lot of guys do not like that. Most guys, I think, do not like that because you are around a lot of very successful, very wealthy men, right, all the time. And so it is very difficult unless you have a significant other that is very confident. It takes somebody that is, and trust me, I was single for a long time because I just didn't meet very confident guys, and they would, the first thing, either they are intimidated or they become groupies, and either one is not attractive. So I think that she should find someone to date that's outside of the relationship. I think that she's a beautiful woman. I think that when she probably has to work on herself, as all of us do when we're single, to get our confidence where it should be, and then to get outside of work. And then a big part of why I wrote this book, that you guys know, always here, I'm a female, it's not him, it's you. You have to put the same type of energy into dating and finding love as you do into your relationship. Into your career. And I think just watching Latorria, even watching her recently on social media, she's very, very into her career. And so she's going to have to find some time. She's probably going to have to slow down a little bit, so that she can actually prioritize dating and do it with the same amount of energy that you do your career. It's not easy. It's not easy to do. Trust me. I know it's not easy, but I do think it's necessary if that's what you want, because I think love is out there for all of us if you want it, but you have to be willing to make it a priority. So, that's what I think about Latorria. I think she has to make it a priority. I do think that she was a bit messy when it came to the situation with Elena and Josh. And I'm going to tell you guys, I also think it was messy that she went back and told Chloe that let's go back to the conversation that Elena and Latorria had about Chloe saying that Josh was not fine, right? Elena says that Chloe could not get the caliber of men that she does. So then Latorria runs back and tells Chloe that Elena said that a man like Josh would not want you. Technically, I see how she said that, but that's not what she said. What she said is she could never get the caliber of men that I get. Now, that might have been even worse. That might have been, if she gave it to her word for word, that might have been worse. But I think that it was, with her saying Josh, you couldn't get a man like Josh. What that did is it made Chloe took it and was like, does she think I want her man? Like, I don't even want her man. Like, that put the emphasis on him and him not wanting her. It totally, either way, it would have been bad. But I just wish Latorria wouldn't have ran and took that bone back. And then things got even worse with, now with Ro. So Chloe told Ro, and then Ro brings it back to the group and says, well, at the spa, she says, well, somebody in this group Latorria said that, Josh wouldn't want Chloe. What? It totally took a left. It's like that game where you say something and then you say it to the next person and then it goes down. Telephone where it goes down, and then you see what the person at the end of the process, the information they got is totally different than the person started out with. I should do that with my friends and just tell something and see how does it end up at the end, because everyone puts their own interpretation on it, and it ends up being the connotative meaning is totally just destroyed. Destroyed. So because really, in order for us to understand what was said and why, you would have to know that, first of all, Chloe said Josh wasn't fine. And actually, this is the sad part. Chloe was actually giving a compliment to Elena, because if you guys remember the context of that conversation, she said, Elena, you're a baddie. Basically, like, you can do better than him. Now, I understand as a woman who is married, if somebody says something about my husband, I'm going to have his back all day. I'm not going to be cool with you saying that my husband ain't fine. Like, girl, who was you talking to? But you have to also see that she was trying to big up her friend and say, you're a baddie. You can do better than him, when you guys are not the same. Like, you are, better look. Like, that's what she was trying to say. It was not received. And I understand why it was not received, because Elena is so sensitive to the touch about the marriage anyway. But it was inappropriate. She should never have said it. But she was really trying to say that Elena was too attractive for her husband. And then for Elena to say she couldn't get the caliber of men I get, that was a really low blow. But then for Latorria to take it back and say Josh wouldn't want her, shaking my head. It's just like, I thought that was messy. I did think that was messy. I don't think that the other things that she did, that Latorria did, were messy, but I thought that one was messy. I do think it was hilarious the way she dismissed Ro at the pool when she was like, I'm really done talking about it, because she was like, well, you judgmental and da-da-da-da. And I don't think she was being judgmental, but I do love a good shutdown. Like, and I'm really quick to do that. Me and my proper self is really quick to be like, okay, well, let's get to it. Like, because I'm not going back and forth with you, right? So what is your point? We can agree to disagree, and I'm done. Like that, I'm quick to do that. So I totally get her for doing that. But I think with Ro, she wasn't trying to be shady or anything, or judgmental. And I think with Munira, that was just like crazy. It's like if somebody says, just gives you what she's teasing her about something that she thinks is positive, and Munira is super sensitive. So yeah, I thought all of those things are very real things in Black women's relationships. I don't think these women are really close like that. I think they're getting to know each other. I think this was the group of friends they found enough diversity in to actually make the show, and I think they have a great cast. But I don't think there's like genuine friendships here. I thought it was good that Ro went to therapy for the first time. That's crazy to go for the first time in front of cameras. But that would be difficult, But I think they are doing a good job of bringing issues to the forefront that most women are dealing with in their friendships and their friend groups, right? You have people that always want to appear to have it together and never want to share. You have people that they are offended at the other person because what's going on in their life makes them feel some way about what's not going on in theirs. You have single and married, and that can be an issue. Even people dealing with grief or dealing with trauma, like what Chloe is dealing with. I really think, Danny says, do genuine friendships really exist on reality TV though? Not really. I don't think that's probably not, it's not common. But do I think that they could become really good friends in this setup? Possibly, because I do think a couple of them do have like genuine connections, but I don't think that we really look to reality TV for examples of authenticity. However, I do think we can look to reality TV for examples of what we're dealing with in life that we may not share with the public. So we get an opportunity to see a model of it and we can talk about it, right? So we can see, I'm sure every one of you has had a situation where a friend said something and maybe you took it in a different way than they meant it, or vice versa. I know I've said things and people took it wrong and I'm like, I'm not even, I'm not thinking like that. So I think I like the fact that the show gives us context to have real conversations about things that we all may have gone through, right? So that's the biggest part of that. I liked this episode. I thought it was really good, especially because it was just, that's raw women's friendships, that whole taking the bone back the wrong way or somebody getting upset. And then there's a lot of them, right? So you got this many people. It's 6 women, and that's not a good thing. My things are blurry, but you got 6 women, in this friendship. They're all going to be very different. They're all going to have, they were raised differently. They've had different experiences. They have different belief systems and all that, you know what I mean? So there's no way for them to agree on everything or really understand each other's perspective. But I think maturity allows us to try to listen to the other person and see things through their eyes, based on what we know about them. So 3 and me, that is hilarious. So I am gonna rate episode 3, which is very demure, very cutesy. I am going to give it an 8.5. I thought it was a great episode. I thought it was, and I think when I think of great episodes, I think that there's something, gives us something to talk about, gives us a reason to tune in next week and find out what's happening. We see some huge issues in the friendship building. Huge issues building. I mean, this thing between Elena and Chloe, I don't know if they can put that to bed. I don't know if the situation with Latorria and Munira is going to be put to bed. I don't think so, because Munira seems really hyped up about it. Like, hyped up about the apple juice and the 11 years old. Ro and Latorria, I think are going to be fine. Because I think that Ro is a little bit more, even though she's got a lot she's dealing with, I think she's a little bit more mature. I think hearing her say, it's so funny because all of these women are, people coming in and out. All of these women are successful in their own right, and they're all in different situations, right? So Munira is married, Labrina is married. Elena is married, even though it's trouble right now. And Latorria is single. Chloe is single, but got a young boyfriend, and Ro is single, right? But they all have the idea of being a superwoman, right? In each of their situations. And so I think that's something that translates across the board when it comes to Black women. It's just doing, and that may be just women, you know what I mean? But I think with Black women, you see it more because it's just more, anytime you are so different than what is the majority, there's a lot that comes along with that. But I think if we look across, that's a commonality, is that all of them are trying to do, Ro is trying to make her clients happy and putting herself to the back and saying she doesn't ever consider herself. And then Munira is saying, I'm trying to do all this, and I'm trying to, and I mean, she's trying to fix everything, right? Her mom and her husband, make the kids look perfect, do all this. Labrina she's juggling a whole bunch, and she's trying to be a peacemaker of the friends. We saw her actually talk to Chloe's man. But I mean, and I think what she said was true. I mean, she talked to him. Do I think that he likes her and wants to be a good guy? Yes. Do I think he'll be able to do all that? No, he's too young. He hasn't had some experiences. But maybe that's just what Chloe needs right now, because she is not ready for something more that would put her back in a situation that would feel like the one with her ex. Maybe she wants something totally different, than what she had with her husband, before he passed. Not calling him her ex, but saying her husband before he passed. She probably wants something that does not feel anything like that, and does not feel like she's being disloyal to him. I can see that being the reason that she wants someone totally different, right? as far as his age. It's like a total different relationship. Doesn't feel familiar at all, because this is a child. This is a young, well, he's not a child. He's a grown man. He's a grown man. But definitely different in the approach, because the dynamic is going to be off. He's not taking care of you. You know, if anything, you're taking care of him. So yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I like the episode. I'm definitely looking forward to next week. I have a couple of videos I want to share with you guys throughout the week. So make sure that you are subscribed. If you guys are watching this on the replay, let me know what you think. What would you rate episode 3? Very cutesy, very demure. What would you rate it? Do you think that Latorria was wrong in Latorria versus Munira, or Latorria versus Ro? Or do you think that, are you on Team Ro or Team Munira? What do you think about Latorria carrying that bone back that has now been transferred and made its way down to a total different statement when she said that Chloe could never get the caliber of men that she pulls? That is a wild statement. I ain't gonna lie. That's a wild statement to say. And it can backfire horribly, because you don't know what a man, that was a wild statement. But again, I'm gonna give Elena grace, because she's going through some stuff, and because Chloe said her man wasn't fine. But the reality is we all have different likes. And it's funny how some of the ladies at the table, actually Elena did think that Chloe's dude was fine. And then some of the other ladies was like, he cool, you know, and so like, that's what she thinks is fine. Okay. Because one thing I know about, and having a bunch of different girlfriends, we all are attracted to different things. We're all attracted to different things. So you can't say that one person is the end. Well, there may be some people that we all agree on, but not usually. You know, everybody's stereotypical perfection is different. So that was kind of crazy that she would just say, I know that, you know, all the ladies' mouths dropped when he walked in. Not necessarily. Not everybody likes, you know. I got some girlfriends that, you know, we have very different opinions on men, be it build, skin tone, body type, all of that. So you just never can make those assumptions. It's very, very, very irresponsible and just not smart to assume that your man is fine to everybody. As long as he's fine to you, that matters. So, but we're going to keep hearing about that. Trust me, that's going to keep being a topic of conversation on Heart and Hustle. And I will be back. We will definitely do this on Sunday, but I just had to get some stuff done. And then I had Monday, we had a bunch of stuff going on. I interviewed Sarah Fontenot from True Talks, and that came on earlier today. But and then today is Wednesday. If you're watching this live, today, Dating Diaries, Scorpio Mo and I are inviting another guest. We've been having a good time with the guests lately, so we want to keep that party going. So we got to get in tonight to talk about homosocials. What do you guys think of men that enjoy men's company more than women? They want to hang out with their boy more than they want to hang out with their woman. What do we think about that? Tune in tonight at 8. We're going to talk all about that. If you're watching this on a replay, let me know in the chat what you think about the episode. What would you rate it? And have you picked a favorite Heart and Hustle co-star? I don't have a favorite. I like all the women, but I do think I obviously could relate to Latorria a lot, and I like Labrina because she reminds me of my girlfriend. So yeah, right now that's where I'm at, but I'm open. We'll see what happens next week. All right. Well, I thank you guys for hanging out with me this afternoon, and I will look forward to seeing you, if you're watching this live, seeing you later at 8. And for those of you watching on the replay, make sure you like and subscribe so you get the notifications every time we do a Heart and Hustle review. All right. Talk to you guys soon.